took me a longer minute than I would have liked. Anyway, here we are. Welcome to the Midnight Knitters Club. My name is Breanna. If you are new here, if you are returning, welcome back. I am so glad that you're here. And today we are actually going to talk about the knits that I have made that are my favorite. And while it's not every single knit that I have made, first of all, completed, let's be real. I've started and frogged so many projects. Literally just the other day, I was sitting here thinking about everything that I've made before and kind of like tallying through the sweaters that I have and the socks and accessories, and kind of was like, well, that seems kind of odd. Like, why does it seem like I have so few when I've been knitting for so long? And it really does come down to, I will get like 70% of the way through something, have an ADD attack, and then instead of coming back to said project, I will frog it. I do not know how many projects I have frogged over the years, but it's been easily half of the things that I've knitted. Easily. Not even, no hesitation at all, whatsoever. I am not still sick, but sick again. While this is still a new channel, I was trying to post weekly for you guys. That was absolutely my goal. And I filmed this once before, and I finished filming and I was like, maybe I should have done that in kind of a different order so that it could be, I tried to do it chronologically, which, why? Because I don't have a good way to keep track of it. I have not been a very good Ravelry user. And I was like, there has to be a better way, and immediately thought of a better way. Then I went to look at the footage. I was like, you know what? I took the time to film it, so I'm just gonna keep going. You know, it's fine. Like, if I really want to, I can just reorganize the clips. I like cut my face off here, and I wasn't super pleased about it. And my light wouldn't work. I've had a lot of trouble with my light. I got a new light. Thank you, Jordan, my partner. He's so good to me. But that's my drama. My drama llama. Light wasn't working. Sick, not sick, sick again. No real organization to my thoughts, which, spoiler alert, is kind of the norm. I operate on very little sleep, and I try to keep my caffeine intake low because I don't think it's that good for you, for me. So here we are. Anyway, let's jump in. I want to talk about my favorite knits, and it's several. It's not like my top 2 or 3, it's a lot of them. They have earned this showing, most of them for being the first time I've done something, or of the style, the best version of that thing. So without further ado, the first category will be, I'll just start with pullovers. I'll start with my pullovers. Okay, the first sweater that I'm going to share with you is a sweater that I knitted probably back in 2012, maybe, right about in there. It is the first sweater that I've ever made, and it came out of a Sublime pattern booklet. And up until I made this, I have never paid for a pattern before. I kind of didn't know it was a thing. Like, I'd only ever seen patterns as like the tearaways at Joann's or Michael's or whatever. But I was at Ben Franklin's R.I.P. We miss you. In technically Springfield, but I grew up in Eugene. And they had this book, and I was like, book of patterns. And then I was flipping through, and I was like, this is magical. It was actually the pattern on the front, and there were 2 different versions of it. This is the first sweater that I've ever knit, and it calls for sublime yarn, which was some kind of like natural combination. And the yarn I ended up using was mostly, is it Bernat or Bernay? Satin. And I say mostly because I ran out with just a tiny little smidge left to do. And if you look really closely, you can see the difference. It's hard. It's hard to find it. But anyway, my first sweater, of course, it had to have a ton of baubles, and this is a pieced garment. So you work the front, the back, the sleeves, and the yoke are all worked flat. You might actually, I should go see if I can track down this book. You pick up, I actually remember picking up for the yoke. But you must do that before, I don't even know. I'm not even gonna pretend. It's been so long since I've made this. I genuinely don't recall the construction other than from what I can see, because I have my questionable mattress stitch. I think I was like, that kind of looks like the pearls. It's just reverse stockinette. No one will notice. It's really obvious that it's not reverse stockinette. Anyway, doesn't really matter. I tried my hardest, and it is the best that I could do at the time with the skills and tools that I had, and I am still immensely proud of this. And I often wear it to holiday functions. It's like my winteriest sweater that I've ever knitted, like Christmassiest. I don't know. There's something about it. It's like a flute of champagne, you know? It's got the bubbles. It's the right color. It's just easy, but it's not a natural fiber, so I don't want to say that maybe I'll knit this again, because the baubles did take a really long time, but I honestly probably would. This is kind of like reminiscent of the last video. With unlimited time and resources, I would knit this again. But it is actually really one of my most special sweaters. I love this. Again, I wear it every year. Yeah, it's just really, it was a really big deal for me. So it has been and continues to be on my list of favorite sweaters. Ooh, I've got some good sweaters here. Okay, let's see if any of these live on Ravelry. I have another Ravelry. I have my I'm a knitter Ravelry, and I have my I'm a designer Ravelry, because my brain will not allow me to multifunction? Multitask? Jeez. Cool. I love it when I can remember my passwords. The second sweater that I'm going to tell you about is the Book Club pullover that I actually worked up as a test for Sari. So if you've ever tested for her, oftentimes she needs you to do the neck, the yoke, until you split for sleeves, and at least one sleeve. And that is what I was able to accomplish for her in the window. And I worked up size 2. The only thing is that I typically like a more dense fabric for my knits, and that worked against me both for my hands, like it was a lot of work on my hands, but also as proud as I am of this knit, it's harder for me to wear it, but I need to wear it so that it starts to relax into itself. So it's like this like weird double-edged sword. But anyway, it is beautiful. And okay, so stats. It's the Book Club pullover. I worked up size 2. I used US 6, and I used Lion Brand's Fisherman's wool and a silk merino, like really light fingering held those two together. Yes, so it's beautiful. Let me hold it up. Here she is. So she's gorgeous. Oopsie. Oh my gosh. Am I the only? I'm not the only one who doesn't. I I weave in my ends and I block it, and then I like never cut the ends off. I'm the worst. Anyway, that's okay. But how yummy is that? Yeah, it was really fun to work this up. I really enjoyed it. It's so heavy, you guys. This is like 4 pounds. Swear to God, it's painfully heavy. But how, I'm sorry, it's beautiful. The construction, so you work this like, oh gosh, there's just ends sticking out everywhere. I'm sorry, you guys, I should cut those off. But I'm human, and this is real. But you start with the trapezoid in the back, and then you pick up each shoulder, and then work them until you are able to join. Oh, you know what? Will that work? Kind of. So you obviously work each shoulder until you join here, and then you work flat on the front until here, and then you join in the round for the body. And you have moss stitch over here, seed stitch in here, but she's like, okay, now work moss stitch on these stitches, and doesn't tell you like to start with a knit or a purl. But it honestly doesn't matter if you are trying to start this pattern, or if you've considered it but you were worried about something like that, because I was like, oh no, how am I going to make sure that my knits and purls meet appropriately at the side? Well, she has a column of knits, kind of like a faux seam along the side, specifically so that it doesn't matter. I mean, I guess not specifically. Maybe she didn't do that specifically. Maybe it's just a run with the motif because she's got these vertical columns of knits, which makes sense that columns would be vertical throughout the whole thing. But she carries that over into the sides, and it helps to alleviate any stress that I found that I might have about those moss stitches coming together. Also gives you something to do any, like if you want to do waist shaping, you can do waist shaping along that and not have it muck up your moss stitch. There was just like a lot of labor that went into this, and I enjoyed the process. So hopefully I will start wearing it. One of the reasons I don't wear my stuff a lot right now is because every time I do, as much as I love my sweet, sweet boys, they have a tendency to just like grab on and like pull, which I swear they don't do when I'm wearing a regular shirt. But when it's a hand knit, they're like, let me just absolutely try to crawl up you while you're standing from your sweater. I'm like, maybe let's not do that. The next sweater that I'm going to show you is probably the second sweater that I made. And there was a huge gap between my first sweater and my second sweater, because this sweater I did in 2016 probably. It's the first colorwork item that I worked up. My friend was kind of buddy knit it with me, and I don't know why she never cast it on, but it was such an enjoyable knit, and it was so cool to watch it come together. And it was definitely one of those things where it's like, this is hard. It took focus. It wasn't something that I could work on and watch TV, because there's a lot going on as far as the color work is concerned. And there's no repeat, and you'll see in a second. But it was a really cool first stranded color work project. I don't know. I have a tendency to like be like, well, somebody did it, so I can do it, so I do it, and then look, I did it. But I digress. I used Barocco. Do they have a bulky vintage? It was one of my first projects when I got Ravelry, and I did not take very good notes. But anyway, I know it was Barocco. This sweater is the Embrase Octopus Sweater by Maya E. Ciernes. And on Ravelry, I call it the Kraken, because for whatever reason, I can't just be normal. take a second. Oh yeah, front and back and sleeve. How cool is that? So this, like I said, is my first colorwork pattern, and I did not understand like floats or catching your floats or like really honestly any colorwork etiquette at all. And I never considered getting on YouTube to like get YouTube certified for it. So I literally just went for it. I didn't know about color dominance, nothing. There was no rhyme or reason to anything that I did. I just sat down and started knitting. They had to be from like the 70s. They were like the most awful plastic, and it was like a super stiff cable, but it was what I had, and I was not going to be deterred. It was a rough time in my life. I didn't have any excess funds. I wasn't able to get myself nice needles at the time, and I suffered through knitting with these. I mean, they had to be made out of like some petroleum-based plastic. It was awful. What plastic isn't from petroleum? I don't know, but these were the worst of it. But, oh, not too bad. My, floats aren't terrible. But what I did was twist. Like, I literally twisted every time I caught. And I always twisted in the same direction. And I remember being like, I need a boyfriend specifically so he can sit here and untwist this so I don't go crazy. No one filled out an application at the time, but that's okay because we're engaged now and everything's good and great and wonderful. Again, this is the first colorwork thing that I ever worked up. There is a little flat color work right up here or over here. Maybe it's over here. And that threw me for a loop. You guys, my brain just absolutely glitched. I was like, what am I supposed to be doing here? It was such a pain, but I figured it out and it turned out beautifully. The only bummer about this is it's so hot. It's bulky weight yarn and it's 2 layers, the entire thing except for your right sleeve. It's hot, so I don't get to wear it very often, and right now it's a little tight, especially when I sit here like right after dinner with my gut hanging out. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I just look at it, like no joke. I will just like stop and look at it every now and again when I'm home alone or whatever. I do highly recommend it. It's just one of those things where you do need personal space to work on it, in my opinion, but worth it. So worth it. I do not have yardage. I do not have needle size. I don't have anything like that. So, ooh, let's read my note. Sometimes since I actually knit this sweater, so a good portion of the tiny details have left me. True. Oh, wow. My start date, it says September 1st of 2016. Oh, good job, memory. And then completed November 13th of 2016. So that didn't even take me forever. How cool is that? Okay, these are the things I remember and therefore must be the most important. The majority of this stranded colorwork, but there is one sleeve that is mostly not. I highly recommend sizing down your needles for this sleeve after you finish the top of it. Even with a successful swatch, it ended up larger and longer than the other, which has colorwork. This is my Stornoway sweater, which I have worn. Second episode. I love it. I think it's so fun. I still need to like block and stretch the sleeves just a smidge so that they, what did I call it? I said they need to be blocked into submission. They need to just relax a little bit more. Just be just a tiny bit longer. because I know they have it in them. They've got the potential. But I love this sweater. I love the stripes. I love the texture. It was really potato chippy. Hi, Clem. It was just an overall enjoyable knit to work up. And I would totally do this again. I think it'd be really fun to work it up in a single color. I've seen it and I liked it. Or some hand spun. That would be actually a pretty fun challenge, because then I'd have to figure out like a worsted to heavy worsted weight spin. All right, the next sweater that we will be chatting about is the Blueberry Pie sweater. And it was a test knit that I did for, I've been calling her Johanna. But somebody recently talked about her on their podcast and called her Johanna, which it could be, but she does live in Portland, and I assumed she was native to the area. So I would call her Johanna. But anyway, I tested this for her. It was really fun to test. I had been in a car accident, and it took me longer to finish this, but it made that healing process. It just gave me something to do, because when you can't really like get up and go and do stuff, it's nice to have something to keep you occupied. I've mentioned this before, but it's still on my list of favorites. Everything is covered in my hair. Literally everything. There she is. She's got the most beautiful yoke. Look at that. And then a yummy textured body. But yeah, it has just a dash of baubles. We've got different stitch textures. You've got the cables, and I just really appreciate the size of each diamond layer getting bigger and bigger. I think that shows a lot of skill and patience in your grading, because that's not easy. It's not easy. But she did it, and it's beautiful. And her samples, one of them is like a blueberry, like a really bright blueberry color, and then the other one is like a yellow, like a goldenrod yellow, and they're both gorgeous. So if this kind of like stitch texture type of knitting is your vibe, I don't know. I do highly recommend this. It calls for worsted weight yarn, and while the yarn I used is technically a worsted weight yarn on the label, it was kind of tricky to get gauge. So I would look for a true worsted weight yarn. And I worked up a size large. I had made this after my first baby. I was 6 months postpartum. On US 5 and 6, or 3.75 and 4.0 millimeter needles. I'm so funny. The notes that I have on this project on my Ravelry. Let me start by saying this is by far the best gluten-free vegan blueberry pie I've come across in all my days. I am gluten-free, gluten, dairy, almond, peanut, pinto bean, and artichoke free. So this blueberry pie checks all the boxes. Yeah, I think honestly I could do a little bit of sweater surgery on this and make it a tad shorter. In my notes I actually go on to talk about how I added about an inch to the body, and that was a choice I made in a time when I didn't dress myself the way that I do now. Honestly, there's just been an evolution, and the sweater could use an update so that I could wear it more often again. Okay, I have also talked about this next knit on the podcast. I even showed it. But I love it. I wore it the other day because it's fall and it's October, so it's spooky. And it is the Arachne sweater by Andy Sutherland. Satterland. I do that every time. And here she is. Oh, right on the cat's claw. Are you kidding me? Took that away. I wanted a low contrast, like subtle. Sorry, I'm sorry. She probably thinks I'm over here being passive aggressive. I swear I'm not. I wanted low contrast, like I was saying. Purple is like my favorite color. Maybe you've noticed. And I did pretty heavily modify this. So essentially I kind of just worked her chart and used her final numbers for not even that. I kind of just worked her chart. I know that I worked some extra, raglan shaping. I did a folded over stockinette collar, and I worked a pearl band before I worked the collar on significantly smaller needles. Sewed it down on the inside. I love this collar. I love how it fits. I love how it feels. And I also did the same thing on the cuffs. My sleeves, I did a few decreases, and then I did kind of like I wouldn't say like a sudden rapid decrease. I just worked several. I plan on eventually getting this figured out with my eyes open. Okay, the next pullover, and I think it's the last of my pullovers. I should say. Okay. I love it. I am so proud of it. And it just brings me so much joy because it's just a little bit weird in such a wholesome, crafty girl kind of way. And it is a mashup of a few different patterns, mostly things that I just tacked together in my brain. Not so much like I don't own all the patterns that I pulled from to make this, is what I'm getting at. So it doesn't have a name, but I can tell you a few of the places that I pulled inspiration from. Here she is, first of all. So this is just a scrappy, I attempted to do like a gradient fade shift. I don't know if you guys can hear my dog fluffing her poor pillow, but she's going for it. And it was like pretty cool up at the top, and then it obviously just kind of was, it took a little bit of a turn toward the bottom and just got a little wild, a little out of hand. But there are all sorts of yarns, obviously. I love the top of it. That's probably why I just really like it. Okay, so I hope you can see this on your side. I'm sitting here with the light shining through it, so of course I can see it. But anyway, I hope some part of it is visible for you. 3 eyelet increases. So I think it's a Felix that does that. I think a few different things. So there's a Felix, and then I think there's something by Anna that has increases like that, and I just thought it was really sweet and delicate and feminine. So I decided to utilize that for the increases on my raglan as well. And then I have these honeycomb panels on the sleeves, which you can find in like any stitch dictionary. There was something that had this cable across the whole back. It was like a long kind of like duster cardigan. And I never made it, but I was inspired by it. And so I added that same honeycomb to my sleeves in much like the way that the Tin Can Knits Flax sweater has. They have like a garter panel. Told you it's a mashup of a lot of things. And then it's just a straight body. I don't know if you can hear my cat yowling, but he is out there singing the song of his people. Yes, so she has no name. She's just beautiful and unique. I will now talk about the next category, which is my cardigans. This is the international sign for cardigan. This one first. This is the Cloud Peak cardigan. I test knitted this for Hohi, and it's pretty, I have to say. I worked it up in some of my own hand-dyed yarn. There is a mohair involved with this. And then I over-dyed the whole situation because it was like kind of a gradient happening and I didn't want that. I have since learned more about dyeing yarn and have considered doing a second over dye so that it doesn't look so tie-dye-ish and kind of splotchy. Let's see if I can get the front of this front side here is pretty. And this has this gorgeous, hopefully that's not too close, this gorgeous front band, and you pick up as if you're working a double knit button band, but it's not double knit, it's just this beautiful cable-y. Up until this cardigan, I had never really worked any kind of specialty front bands. I'd only ever done just like a ribbed 1x1 or 2x2 front band or button band, and so to pick up for this the way that she called from the pattern, I was so confused, and I messaged, I was like, because I'm not even gonna get into it, but I messaged the group and they were like, yeah, clearly you just do this, and I was like, oh, obviously. So it just has this really cool twisted stitch cabling for this front panel. It's also on the sleeves for the lower portion. And then depending on how long you want your sleeves, you can have it either kind of bell out or like taper in. It just depends on where you are in the chart. And then the motif is also continued on the little pocket. And I do believe this is the only thing I've ever worked that had pockets. I think you put your stitches on hold and then you cast on for your pocket. And then, yeah, that makes sense. You work your pocket and then you go back in and you pick up your held stitches, work the inside of the pocket, sew that down. Yep, all makes sense. Brain is braining. Oh, look at me go. Okay, let me see if there are any notes. My Ravelry. Nope, not even size. This was really fun to work up. It worked up relatively quickly because it's like an Aran weight, bulky yarn, and very few stitches per inch. I do actually think that this sweater, you pick up for your sleeves. So you kind of have this little tiny bit of like a saddle shoulder. It's like a compound raglan. It's more of a saddle because you do put those on hold, then pick up stitches along the edge. And I was not expecting this to be the case, but you actually work short rows back and forth for like literally every single stitch. Damn near. Before you start working in the round for the rest of the sleeve. It makes for a beautiful fit, so worth it. This is my version of the Shiftigan, and I do love this. I wore it to Sacred Sheep the first year and got a lot of compliments. I was pretty pregnant, and this fit differently then than it does now, and that's totally okay. I would almost say that it looked better. There's a picture of me here with Andrea Mowry of Drea Renee Knits. Yeah, the bump made a few of the things permissible that I did to this poor sweater. So it is a steeked sweater. It's the first time I ever steeked anything. I hand spun all of my contrast yarn and I dyed my main color on a commercial base. So that was really cool. I feel like I say that a lot, especially when I'm tired. My vocabulary just gets less and less exciting. But I did a few funny things. So I did not love doing the purling on the color. So I only worked the purls on the 1x1 and not the 2x2. So that was one of the modifications that I made. And I also really wanted it to be a V-neck because I just don't love the crew necks, although I sit here and dream up crew neck patterns all the time. So I just must need to suck it up and wear them because they exist in my brain and they must come out. But anyway, I was like, oh, I've never steeked anything. Oh, I've never designed or knitted a V-neck sweater that I can't try on. I have no idea what I'm doing. And what I should have done is not what I did do. And I didn't know that I should have done what I should have done until after this was completed. And it was literally like I finished it on like a Monday. And then not that Friday, but the next Friday, Andrea released her typical Friday Q&A. And somebody was like, I want to turn it into a V-neck. What should I do? And she was like, you should skip the top collar and just start like where the stockinette starts and work you cast on fewer stitches than she calls for so that you can do your increases and then accommodate the V. And then go back in and pick up the front band all the way around and work it from the bottom on one side up and all the way across to the bottom on the other side. And I really wish I would have, not that I would have undone the entire thing to start over, now that I sit here in 2020 this, but yeah, I should have done it differently and I didn't know any better. And also it's technically not finished. Don't tell anybody. I still need to actually I need to whip this down. Let me just show you. It's just free flapping in there. I also never sewed the buttons on. I am really bad about sewing the buttons on in my cardigans, turns out. So what I should have done is worked the collar with the bands at the end, but I started where she started in the pattern and it just doesn't quite lay right, and that's okay. This is also it's like, for what's supposed to be a V-neck, it's got this funny point. And That bums me out, but it is so pretty. It is so pretty. Also, my gauge is definitely off. So it turned out bigger, and the shape is obviously very different. The texture is different, but I'm still really proud of it, and I do still really love this item. I think it's beautiful. I really do. I worked really hard to do this project, and I think simply because of that effort, it will always be on my list of favorites. And once my kids stop pulling on my sweaters, I'll probably wear it all the time. My final cardigan, which is the final piece in this category, is the Letho. I wore this to the second year of Sacred Sheep and also got a lot of compliments on it. I'm not telling you that to be like narcissistic. I just tell you that because I want you to also get lots of compliments when you wear your hand knits, and so you should knit these things too. But it turns out I actually really like the Lion Brand Fisherman's wool because that's what I used to knit this up, and it was actually the first project I used their yarn for. This is it. Now, look at that. Look at that. I'm sorry. I'm just like sitting here making you stare at it. That spine. This spine is what really jumped out and got people's attention, and a lot of people came up from behind and they were like, "Oh my gosh, what are you wearing? I love that. Can you tell me about it?" And it really is stunning. And then it has the welts. You've got 3 welts along the whole front, wraps around, and then it echoes on the cuffs. You've got brioche for the cuffs and the band, and the hem is actually, so you've got your brioche, I-cord edge. Your bottom hem though is a 1x1 rib. And this pattern is worked. You pick up for the cuff and you work the sleeve. You work up here, you got some increases. Then you have a big provisional cast on. You then work back up one side, and then you're working flat, like up and over until you get to the end of the front panel, which makes sense. And then there's not a whole lot left to work flat before you start the mosaic knitting. This is a little tiny bit of mosaic. And then you put it on hold. And you do again the same thing on the other side. And you do a 3 needle bind off. It just has these really striking details. And otherwise, it's a super straightforward knit because it is mostly stockinette. And then there's quite a bit of it that's in the round, so that's pleasant. The welts, they take a minute, but then you get them, or at least I did. I had amnesia and I went to work the second sleeve and I was like, this is fast and easy and oh, I love it. And then I was like, this is taking me a really long time. So, and then I got up to here and I was like, oh no, because these welts, you know, they go up the whole front, across the back and down. That's a lot, but well worth it. I love this sweater. I wore this a lot when I was pregnant too. I really liked the fit. I liked the length of it, and I enjoyed the drapey the drapey somewhat shawl collar that it has. I really liked wearing it with a cropped hoodie underneath it. So I just like had like an inexpensive one from Target that I would wear, and I just felt so cozy and weather ready. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, if I haven't mentioned that before, or if you haven't caught it before, and it rains a lot here, and it's cold, but it's not freezing. So the hood necessary. We don't typically use a lot of umbrellas here. You have a hood for a reason. So having that extra woolly layer on top was just always nice. And because it's fisherman's wool, I was like, you have your shanty sea dogs and they're out there wearing their knits and they are covered in ocean spray, so I can get a little bit of clean rainwater on mine and it'll be fine. And it was. And it was really cool to just wear it and not feel too precious about it. So I highly recommend the Letho. I really loved it. The third and final category of knits that I'll be talking about in this video are kid knits. So buckle up. I'll try to be quick, but I'm not very good at that, it turns out. But that's okay. I know that I don't have... Close that for now. Don't need it. Alright. I'll try to do these in kind of a chronological order. No, I won't. Doesn't even matter. Okay. So this was actually, I think, the first attempt I had at doing a faded gradient sweater. And this is kind of a modified Flax by Tin Can Knits. And it's been well loved. I knit it for my kid when he was little, and the objective is to wear it. And he did. He loved this sweater. And then it got stuck to something and it ended up in the wash. So it's partially felted down in this half and on the sleeves, which is tragic. But he kept wearing it, and then after I had my second baby, he wore it a little bit too, but it just, the collar at this point has seen better days. So he didn't wear it a ton. It was like an off-shoulder situation, and we were like, that doesn't seem, all that functional. So, but it's one of my favorites because it's one of the first things that I knit for my little guy, and the fade on it, it just doesn't really get a whole lot better than that. I was really proud of that fade. Beautiful. Loved it. So good. Okay, then again, I let my kids wear their knits, so they do get like worn. I don't want to say worn out, but like worn, so they're not pristine anymore, but as they should be. This is my first intarsia experiment, if you will, and there was very little rhyme or reason other than it's going to be a raglan sweater. Yeah. But anyway, my kid's name, my first one, he is Emerson, so he got an E on the front of his sweater. And it kind of gives me Lego-y vibes because it is so color blocky. And he's my sweet little builder, so it just worked out. It was cute. He wore it for Easter one year, and he wore it to school a lot. That was fun. I think it's even the sweater he wore for his first school picture. His little early learning picture, which proud mom moment. I think he even, I won't go so far as to say he picked it out that day, but he had no qualms wearing it when I was like, do you want to wear this? Okay. This next one was like a double whammy, if you will. So this is for my second baby. He was Freddy Krueger for Halloween last year. And it's red and green, so it also worked perfectly for Christmas. The very last of my favorite knits is actually a set, and I love them. One of them still fits, the other one definitely doesn't. So let me try to get these situated in such a way that you can see them both at the same time. There we go. Okay. So my second little guy was born just before Easter.